This time, can Aero mods for my Suburban improve the gas mileage, get me better handling, and make it a little bit quieter on the interstate? Let's find out. So the main part of this project is going to consist of this. This is a replacement factory air dam that I got off of eBay for $29. Unlike the air dam that's already on my Suburban, this one does not have the cutouts for the tow hooks and is basically just a solid piece. So what I'm going to do is mount this on the car upside down underneath the original air dam, and that looks something like this. But before I do that, I want to fill in these big holes that are the original mounting holes. Since it goes like that, these are the holes for the bolts that normally would attach this to the bumper itself. So I want to fill these in so that there's not extra drag there, and it will just look a little bit nicer if these holes are not open like that. So the rest of the stuff I'm going to use here for this part of the project, I got some expanding foam, and then I also got a tube of polyurethane roof sealant. This is black polyurethanes, so I thought that was a good choice for materials to fill in the plastic on the bumper. To attach the air dam to the original air dam that's on the car, I went ahead and just got a set of factory style hardware. So it's got some 10mm bolts, and then there are some of these nut clips, or whatever they're called, like a retained nut clip that goes on the other side. So that was like $4 off Amazon, something like that. And then I don't think I even need it because of the compound curves in this and just how rigid this plastic is. The back side of the lip here too is folded over, so it's pretty strong with the shape of it. But just for good measure, I don't want it to fold over at 75, 80 miles an hour. I went ahead and just got a couple of, these are actually Simpson strong ties for like securing hurricane straps for roofs or something like that. But I think 2 of these just down to the middle of the center of the air dam will give it enough extra support. And then a couple other things. I had some old insulation tape sitting around here. This is like, I don't know, 1/8 inch foam, something like that. And then I also grabbed some other weather stripping that's a little bit bigger while I was at Home Depot. So there's a couple of gaps that I want to fill as well. And actually, with this stuff, I think what I'm going to do here, in between these flanges, basically, so this is going to be the new top, and it's going to mount to the bottom of the other one that looks exactly the same. I think I'm going to put a strip of that thin foam right there too, just to fully seal that gap up once they are screwed together. So before I can do anything else, I need to work on filling in these holes. Okay, now I can flip it over, lay it flat on the flange, and then start putting some of the polyurethane in there. Maybe this was a mistake on material. Also, as far as the air dam, unfortunately, and I really should have known better, the polyurethane foam method did not work out. So I just threw some tape on there. As soon as I try to take the tape off the bottom, the whole plug just pulled straight out. It didn't adhere to the bumper itself at all. So I'm going to rock the tape for the purpose of the experiment. Again, if it seems like there's enough benefit to make it worthwhile, when I get home, I will take that back off, fill in these holes, and finish it all properly. So to mount this, I'm just going to hold it in place with a couple of clamps, drill a few holes, and then use these factory style clips that are retained nuts and bolts to hold it all together. So before we get too far into this, I just wanted to throw this out there. I am not trying to achieve monumental gains. I'm not trying to get Prius mileage or anything ridiculous like that. I am simply trying to make incremental improvements to the mileage, to the handling, and to the amount of noise that's coming in at highway speeds. The ability to cruise a couple of miles an hour faster on the interstate on a long trip without having a huge mileage penalty is really what my main goal is here. And also, this is an experiment basically for the sake of the experiment, even though I'm not being terribly scientific about my method. It just so happens to be that I'm doing a 1,000-mile trip here in a couple of weeks, and that's a great baseline for testing because I did this same trip several months ago in the Suburban with basically the same amount of people, same amount of stuff, and conditions more or less the same. So with that, I should be able to compare any changes that I make on this new trip to the previous trip to see if I've made any improvement. In addition to the extra front air dam, I'm also going to install some of these. These are vortex generators based off of the AirTab design that was actually studied by NASA in the 80s. So these are going to go on the edge of the roof here. And what these will do is create vortices, which ideally will reduce the negative pressure pocket that forms behind the back of the vehicle here, which should, in theory, increase the gas mileage a little bit. It should decrease the pressure wave of the car. It should make it more stable at highway speeds. There are a number of benefits. So I'm just going to go ahead and install these along the rear edge of the roof here. So to mount these, I'm just going to use some two-sided Gorilla Tape and go around the outside perimeter of them so that there's nowhere for air to get underneath or water, and then just stick them on there. Alright, well, here's the first one with the adhesive tape on the bottom. I believe these are most effective the closer they are to the trailing edge here. And I know the instructions say the front of it should be no more than 12 to 16 inches ahead of that trailing edge. So for most of these, I can set them basically right on the roof line. But here where the third brake light is, I do have to shift them forward a little bit. So I think that's what I'm going to do. All right, I think that's going to be pretty secure on there. Just a little piece of this Gorilla Tape has held that 3D printed trim on my S10 Blazer for like 4 years now. So, and there's a lot more of the Gorilla Tape on these, so that should be good. Now I just need to do that like 8 more times. All right, well, I've done like 2 little test drives here with some of these VGs installed, and I'll have to throw a picture up here for you to see. I still don't have them in the middle here, but at like 45 miles an hour, I didn't even get that fast yet. There is a very pronounced V, which you can see in the rain. I'll show you the picture here. There is a very pronounced V where I've got the vortex generators, and then in the middle where I don't. So the glass was definitely much cleaner on the corners, and visually I can see that these are doing something. And then the other thing, the little one that I put here underneath the mirror, I didn't notice it the first drive, but the second drive I just got back from at about 50. Actually, I think it started closer to 40. This was starting to whistle, so I think I'm going to take this one back off of here. The other thing that might be contributing to that whistling is the fact that I went with this design when I first started printing all of these with the third bar in the middle there. I don't really know why I chose that design over the other one, but the design that these are based off of looks like this. It does not have that third bar, so I think moving forward I am going to go ahead and print the rest of them like this. That speeds up printing time a little bit and also slightly reduces the amount of material used in these, and then hopefully they won't whistle. Although the full size with the 3 bar, at least in the back, I could not hear any whistling whatsoever, so I don't know if that's necessarily a symptom of the third bar, the fact that the one that I put on the window is smaller, or a combination of both of those. But like I said, I'll take it off, I'll try the other one and then see if it's still doing that. So to achieve maximum benefit, I need to also install the vortex generators down the side here as well. Okay, well now that side's done, now I just need to do the other side. Okay, this side's done as well. Got like one or two of them there that I would have liked to have adjusted a little bit, but it's stuck on there so well that it's not really wanting to come off easily. So I'll leave it on there for the purpose of this experiment, and if they provide enough of a benefit, then maybe I'll come back and try to pop that one off or two off and space those out a little bit better. But of course, if they don't do much of anything, then I'll just take them all back off. Definitely starting to look like Batman's Suburban. Okay, so here's where I'm going to start to go a little bit crazy with these things. I have reduced the scale and size like I did for the roof corners. I've made them, I've made a couple of these even smaller since, so that I can fit them on a few of these places here, like the bumper, because this is a trailing edge. There's a lot of turbulence with the wheel, so that should be a pretty good spot for a vortex generator as well. And then I think I have room for one down here also. So just going to throw a couple of these on the forward edge of the front wheel well. Obviously there's a lot of turbulence here. I've got a couple down here already. So I think two more up here. And then maybe a couple of those in front of the back wheels as well. I think something like that. And then one more. Those ought to be good. Do the same thing on the other side. And also mimicking some of the stuff that a lot of the manufacturers are doing now on the mirror. Went ahead and printed these really tiny little vortex generators, and then another big one here. And then of course I've got the other air tab designs on the big flat surface on the bottom of the mirror. Okay, so a couple of other very minor things. I'm going to tape up the holes for the tow hooks, and I did tape up these holes on the bottom of the second air dam. I'm going to go ahead and, just for good measure, tape the same holes up on the top one as well. Probably won't make a difference, but why not? Alright, there's that all taped up. Another very minor thing I want to do is right here. There's a gap in the middle of the hood between the grill, so I'm going to use some of that foam tape and try to fill that in. So I went ahead and just stuck a couple pieces up here, started wide, and then put a second one that was a little bit shorter, and then a third one that was a little bit shorter again. So let's see how we did. Yeah, I guess it could use a little bit more. Well, it doesn't look terribly nice if you look real close there, but that did pretty much seal all the way across the hood. So I guess I will run it like that. So here is everything installed. Well, the trip ended up being a success. 1,000 miles up and then 1,000 miles back home with no problems whatsoever, either with the Suburban or with any of the Aero mods. As far as noise and handling, I'd say there's a very slight improvement. I think most of it is coming from the vortex generators in the back. I think that did cut down a little bit on the amount of wind noise in the very back. But the biggest thing I would say that I noticed from and again, I think the vortex generators more so than the front air dam, was the stability at highway speeds. I think those vortex generators do make a little bit of an improvement there. So I wouldn't necessarily call that a handling improvement, but when you go past semi-trucks or semi-trucks go past any of that kind of stuff, the car feels a lot more stable, and I think it's from those vortex generators. As far as the front air dam, I think it's probably a wash. My suspicion with that is that the added frontal area of the second air dam is negating any reduction in drag from that as well. And then especially with the way that the front air from both of those air dams dumps into the front of the tires. So I don't think I'm getting any net benefit from that second air dam. And then of course, as far as the mileage, before the Aero mods, the last time we did this trip, I averaged 14.1 miles per gallon. And that's calculated based off of what the odometer says and the speedometer. My tires are a little bit bigger, so that's actually a little bit off. And adjusted, that comes out to 14.8 miles per gallon as my baseline. Doing that same computation again for this trip with the Aero mods comes out to 14.2 calculated, with an adjusted miles per gallon of 14.9. So 1/10 of a mile per gallon improvement in both the calculated and the corrected or adjusted miles per gallon. So that is not outside of any kind of margin of error. And a lot of you watching this may have guessed that this was going to be the result, but I'm not giving up on this just yet. Like I said, I think the front air dam is hurting me more than it's helping me. And there are a few other things that I didn't get to try this time that I wanted to. So I will definitely be revisiting this in the future and going for round 2 of Aero mods on the Suburban. So make sure you check back for that. And don't forget, next week I've got the 1-year anniversary of buying the Suburban sight unseen on eBay. So I've got a recut of that video as a single part. So make sure you check back next week for that as well. Like this video if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Leave me a comment down below if you've got something to add, and I will see you next time.